There's a good chance you're currently planning out your holiday menu. In this video, I've got a few sides that you are gonna want at your holiday table. Trust me, so good. These are delicious. Let's make a really beautiful harvest grain salad. This is one that is easily made as a side dish for Thanksgiving, but it can also easily be made as a full dinner. Just add something like some grilled chicken to the top and you're done. It's so good. It's got all the things that you want in it. The first thing we need to do is cut up a butternut squash, and that's the hardest part of this recipe for sure. Let's do this in really fast time speed. Okay, so I've got my butternut squash here. It is ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my oven to, we're gonna do 400 because we're gonna be roasting it. We're gonna add some avocado oil and then some salt, and that's it. As far as the seasonings go, you can add pepper too. Actually, you know what? Let's add a little bit of pepper. Butternut squash is so good with just a hint of pepper. Pepper, and then just toss. All right, mix that together. So we're just gonna roast these on a baking sheet, 400 degrees. It usually takes in between 25 and 30 minutes, but I mean, you just kind of check it depending on your oven, where your rack is in the oven and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's just pour this all over the baking sheet and then spread it out. You don't really want them to overlap. You want a single layer if you can get a single layer. I probably could have even used my larger baking sheet. This is one butternut squash. This will be more than plenty for my family of 4. If you're taking a really big salad to a Thanksgiving or you're hosting or whatever the case may be, you might want to do more than one. And also, to be quite honest with you, if you're looking to save money, then go ahead and buy yourself a butternut squash and cut it up. If you're looking to save time because maybe you are hosting and you have, 57 different things going on at one time, most grocery stores sell butternut squash already cubed. It might be worth the extra $2 to $4 that it's gonna cost you just to save yourself on 15 minutes or so of cutting up some butternut squash. Now this is gonna go in the oven just like so. Like I said, about 25 to 30 minutes. I'll start watching it at the 20-minute mark just to make sure it's not getting too done. We're still preheating. We're at almost 200 now. So this is gonna go in just a minute and we're gonna get the rice started that's gonna go with this. Okay, so I'm using a wild grain rice and I'm gonna try and get 2 cups. I don't know if we have quite 2 left, but let's see. Oh, almost, close enough. I personally like to cook my rice in bone broth. You guys know that. It adds extra protein to the rice. I also will add a touch of salt and then love a rice maker because then plug it in, flip the button, and it cooks it for you. While we're waiting on the oven to preheat, I feel like I'm gonna get hate for this. I'm not a huge fan of Thanksgiving, okay? I don't love a turkey. I don't like ham at all. I do like the sides though, but I also feel like so many of the sides are super fatty and carb heavy, and sometimes on my plate, I just want something that's refreshing, and that's how this salad is to me. It feels hearty, but at the same time, it feels a little healthier, and it's delicious. So I actually really like a good salad at Thanksgiving. I prefer one that's a little bit unique. I have other videos here where I've showed some unique salads. I'll have them linked so that you can see them because I do feel like, I don't know, just embracing a really good salad at Thanksgiving, I love it personally. Let me know in the comments, do you like that too? Or are you here for all the carbs? Listen, I'm not hating because I love carbs. I am here for the carbs. I love the carbs. But I just feel like after I've eaten all the carbs, I need something a little bit healthier on the side of my plate. Let's go ahead and get this in the oven. It's at 315. It'll be there any minute. I do have to say, y'all, this new oven preheats super fast. While we wait on the butternut squash, I'm gonna roughly chop up some spinach, and we just need a few handfuls for this. Remove the stems if you so choose. You don't have to chop it. I just like it better chopped because I don't want a huge, especially, this says baby spinach. I think they lied. I don't want a huge bite of spinach. I want smaller pieces. Okay, that's pretty good. That's several handfuls there. Now, the next thing we're gonna add is leek, and I already washed this. So let's cut off the end here. And I'm gonna cut just over the green. Okay, so I like to cut this down the center and then down the center again. That's my preference. Oh, that was not the center, not at all. And then we're going to slice this just into little bite-sized pieces. I personally love leek. It's kind of an oniony type of flavor, but maybe a little more mild. And strangely enough, my husband, who, you know, doesn't like onions, doesn't mind leeks. So that's a bonus. We're able to use them. Okay, that's about what I need. Okay, start to add that in and kind of like just toss it in, you know, with your hands-ish. It's all gonna get tossed around, but I do want to be able to see all the beautiful layers. Okay, that was only one leek, and I do have another one. If I feel like it needs more, I'll add more. Okay, we need to head over to the garden because I need basil, and I've got basil on the garden. Okay, I'm actually gonna use a decent amount here, but that's okay. They needed to be trimmed anyhow. Okay, so handful or so of basil. I'll give this a very, very light chop, very light. I just wanna go through and make sure there's not any, like sometimes when I prune the garden, I miss a few of those little dead leaves, so we don't want that in the salad. If you make this, you'll probably use green basil, you know, like regular basil, but this purple basil actually adds a beautiful color to this salad. Okay, so just a rough chop here. It smells so good. Now I'm gonna leave a little bit out because I'm gonna toss all this in, but I want a little bit for the top once, because it kind of all gets mixed in. Like you can see here, as I'm tossing, it's just kind of it gets lost. But that beautiful color is gonna look so pretty once I can toss some on the top too. So leave a little bit out and just throw some on the counter, obviously. So we've got some cranberries here. I'm gonna toss some in and then I'm gonna leave some out to garnish on the top. So I actually don't love fruit in salads. I don't know, I've always been that way. But I don't mind cranberries. I'm not a fan of like the strawberry salad and you know, those kind of things. But I don't mind occasionally having some fruit in there. All right, so we've got all that mixed together. Let me wash my hands and check on the stuff over here. Then we're gonna make up the dressing. Speaking of healthier options, holidays can be full of delicious indulgences. I don't know about you, but occasionally I do tend to pack on a few extra pounds during the holiday season. And I tend to get busy and forget to take care of my overall physical health, my skin health. You know, I'm rushing through routines and things like that. Sun Goddess matcha is the best for my skin and for my energy. It supports metabolism, it helps to curb sugar cravings, and it's got powerful skin ingredients for brightening, firming, and clarifying the skin. I personally am a huge fan of matcha. I love the flavor of it. You can make it in a hot or a cold drink. My preference is cold, but you know, sometimes you just need that nice warm beverage. It's made with the highest quality and purest ingredients, and it is super convenient because you can take these little packets with you everywhere you go. All you gotta do is open a packet and you know exactly how much you're supposed to use. Peak's never before seen blowout Black Friday special is here. Get 20% off site-wide, okay? I have the matcha, but I've also tried a couple of their other things as well. 20% off site-wide. Go check it out. Run, don't walk. It's only good for a limited time while supplies last, and it's going to end on November 24th, so you don't want to miss out. All right, I forgot we needed rosemary, so I should have pulled that off the garden when I was over there as well. So I'm pulling some of the sprigs out here, and then I'm gonna chop this up really, really fine. We do not want any big chunks of rosemary. We want it to be all chopped up nicely. So this is gonna take a moment just to make sure we really get it chopped up. Now, the reason that this gets chopped so fine is because this goes in our dressing. So we really want the aroma, the flavor, all of that of the rosemary to come out into that dressing. So overall, I probably have like 2 teaspoons of very, very finely chopped rosemary. I mean, you guys can see how much I'm chopping this up. It is a lot. Okay, now I can go ahead and just add this straight into my dressing container that we're gonna be making the dressing in. This is very similar to a dressing that I made in a grain bowl video that I had recently. You guys, I am telling you, if you have not seen that recipe, it's probably our #1 winner of the year. Like, best flavor that we've had all year long in a dinner. You need to check it out. I'll have it linked because I can't say enough good things about it. It's so delicious. Now, I have avocado oil here. Feel free to use olive oil. Actually, I might use olive oil this time. I always forget that I have this one in there, so let's just use this one. About a 1/4 cup. 2 to 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. I think that's probably about what I have left in here, but I do have another one if I need to open it. About 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. You want the real stuff here, okay? Not the high fructose corn syrup. A couple tablespoons, and a couple tablespoons of red wine vinegar as well. Okay, now we need to add some garlic. So 2 to 3 cloves or so. Obviously, feel free to use the garlic that is already minced. For a while there, I was mincing mine in bulk, and then I guess I just forgot that I was doing that. And so each time I have a recipe, I have to pull it out and do this, which is not a big deal. It takes seconds. Okay, we've already got the rosemary in there. I'm actually gonna add a pinch of salt. I do feel like that kind of brings out the flavor of everything. And mix. There's your dressing. So now we're just waiting on the rice and the butternut squash, and then we'll be ready to finish assembly. All right, I just heard the rice click, so I'm gonna stir that. The butternut squash has been in the oven for about 35 minutes. It is done. It's completely cooked through. I actually prefer mine to get a little bit of like a roasting or a crust on the outside, so I'm leaving it in a little bit longer, but you should feel free to take it out now if that's not your goal. Let's go ahead and stir the rice. I'm gonna turn this off, or unplug it rather, and just kind of give it a little stir just to let some of that heat escape before we end up mixing it with the spinach and everything over there. So I'm not really trying to let it cool all the way. I just want some of that heat to come off. And actually, let's take it out of the cooker part. Okay, so I'll just let this sit here for a few minutes. The butternut squash will be done any minute, and then we'll assemble everything together. One of the really neat things about this salad is that it can be eaten while everything is hot. It can be refrigerated and eaten later. It can be eaten at room temperature. I mean, it's one of those that kind of, it's fine no matter how you do it. Don't be afraid to make this one ahead of time, put it all in the fridge, and then bring it out when you're ready to serve and toss all of your dressing and everything together at that point. Let's assemble. So we've got the salad that we already made. I'm gonna toss in rice. Start to kind of toss that together. This is gonna be a nice big salad, y'all. I'm gonna add in most of the butternut squash, but save a bit because then you can add it to the top and it'll look really pretty. Also wanna start tossing in some dressing. Save a little bit for the top. This is a hearty salad, y'all. Oh man, I cannot wait. So the longer you let your butternut squash roast, the less easily that it will kind of, you know, like mush up and stick to something like your tongs, you know, whatever you're mixing with. It'll hold its shape a little better. It all depends on the texture that you're looking for. If you kind of want a more roasted, crunchy type of texture, then you want to leave it in a little longer. But if you're good with not a mashed potato, but more of a mashed kind of texture, a softer texture, I guess is the right word there, then take it out a little sooner. Let's add the rest of the butternut squash here. Kind of lightly toss that in. Okay, now we want to take that extra basil because, I mean, look at how that just changed it. With that purple color especially, so pretty. You could add nuts to this too if you want, like walnut or pecan would be really good on this. Add those cranberries. So good, y'all. So good. Now, here's an optional step. If you have a balsamic glaze, it looks really pretty. Okay, all right. It looks really pretty. I'm not even sure we need all this dressing. Let's see, let's just add a touch more. Wow. Wow. Okay, I'm currently filming another video now, which is all gonna be crock pot Thanksgiving sides, but we need to taste test, I've already dug into this, but we need to taste test the harvest grain salad. And actually, obviously this is going in a Thanksgiving sides video, but I am currently making chicken tenders that we're gonna have. This is gonna be a full meal for our lunch today. So we're gonna put chicken tenders on this. And I know I've talked about it before, but let me show you. We just are finishing off a bag. We get these at Sam's Club. They're actually fairly clean. There's a few ingredients that are not my favorite, but overall the best ones that I found in the grocery store. So I have some of those in the air fryer so that we can put them and have this for lunch today.
Does your eye ever twitch?
Yeah, I think it's a stress thing.
Really?
It's a sign of stress.
Like,
am I right in the comments?
Like right down here, it's just a little twitch.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know in the comments. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's a sign of stress.
That's a weirdest feeling.
Okay, so it's
This looks like a decoration
Yeah.
for a fall table.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's stunning on any Thanksgiving table or Christmas table or whatever holiday you choose to make this for.
Kind of that muted red of the cranberry
Yeah.
and the, why do I always forget the name
Butternut
of this?
squash.
Butternut squash,
Yep.
the orange there. And even is that dirty rice? Is that what you call it? Or not necessarily? Or wild rice?
Grain. Wild grain,
yeah. All of it.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
It's beautiful.
Maple dressing, maple balsamic dressing. There's leek in this. It's not
okay.
onion.
No, I see it.
But
I like that.
same, similar flavor.
I love cranberries in just about anything. In fact, I don't like corn and stuff, but throw cranberry and stuff.
I'm the opposite. It's good, right?
That's delicious. You said you were putting chicken in here? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that will be good, but that is delicious. Oh man. You don't know if you're eating a salad or a rice bowl or a casserole.
Oh yeah, like a casserole.
I just remember hearing a lot as a kid.
It is very good. I do think I undercooked the rice just a little bit. Whenever we're making wild grain rice, I always forget I need to add a little bit more liquid to the rice maker than your traditional one. But I kind of like it that way.
I do because, even though it was maybe an accident, I like it because the butternut squash would be the same consistency as the rice.
Yeah, true.
I like that.
Yeah, so you have different textures in there, which are really good. But y'all, this salad is stunning. And like I said before, it's very similar to the autumn grain bowl that we made in this video right here. Yes. And if you have not tried it.
Was that the quinoa one or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember how good that was?
Yeah.
At first you were like, oh, quinoa.
Yeah, me and our son, we don't like quinoa.
Right. But hands down, it was one of the best recipes really we've had all year long.
Yeah.
You have to try that one. It is so good. I am making sort of like this pepper smoked Gouda mac and cheese, and it is actually 8:30 in the morning right now. I'm gonna go ahead and prep the whole thing so that later tonight all we have to do is pop this into the oven. It's just gonna make it so much easier that way. But the first thing we need to do is shred up some cheese, and I've got a couple different kinds here. I also started a pot of water over on the stove. That's gonna start boiling so that we can get the pasta in there. We're going with this Chipotle Gouda cheese, and this is kind of a shortcut method on this for me. Instead of smoking poblano peppers, I'm going with this one because it's already got peppers in it. And so anyway, shortcut method, sounds delicious. We're gonna go ahead and shred up these cheeses. And then I've got some other cheeses that have already been shredded, and I think they're right about the perfect amount that we need. So I'm using my cheese shredder. The cheeses that are going in this are mascarpone, and I already have that just here. We've got some cheddar, and I need a 1/3 cup. This is probably closer to a 1/4, but we're gonna use all of that. And I need to go buy more cheddar. That's all that I have, so that's just what we're gonna use for this recipe. I don't know why did I get Gruyere? This must be for another recipe. Well, okay, we'll put this one back in the fridge, and we're just gonna shred the Gouda for right now because that's what we need. I really thought that I needed Gruyere for this. Now I need to look and see what in the world am I making with Gouda what am I making with Gruyere, because we love Gruyere cheese. Since we only have, this is probably a 1/3 cup of that sharp cheddar cheese or the aged cheddar cheese, I'm gonna go a little heavier on the Gouda. So this mac and cheese, it is assembled and then baked. You can definitely not make it spicy. I'll give you those options as we're moving along. Now this, I mean, it is poblano smoked mac and cheese, so you're gonna get a little bit of heat there if you make the recipe exactly. But if you want it to be a little more mild on the heat, I'll walk you through that process. Ooh, this is gonna be good cheese right here. Okay, I've already prepped all of my other ingredients. So here's all of our cheeses. I've got our macaroni noodles. We need 4 cups. I went ahead and portioned out 2 1/4 cup of heavy cream butter over there. We've got some dry mustard powder. And then here are the seasonings. And this is really what is going to give it heat or not give it heat. We've got some Cajun seasoning. There's 2 teaspoons of Cajun seasoning. Now keep in mind, Cajun does not necessarily mean spicy. So if I were you and if you wanna cut down on spice, I'd probably cut down on the cheese that has the peppers in it before I'd cut down on the Cajun seasoning. We do have some cayenne pepper in here though. Now, if you really wanna cut down on heat, that's where you cut it down. So I have a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You can completely omit it or maybe do a 1/4 teaspoon if you really wanna cut it down. If you're using a spicy cheese, then maybe cut it completely if you wanna cut that down. Now, if you really wanna take this over the top and you want heavy spice, then crank up the cayenne. 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. So we're gonna head over to the stove where I'm gonna make a roux. We're gonna get the macaroni cooking up. Okay, we've got some water that is almost boiling, so we'll be putting those noodles in just a minute here. And then I've got a pot that we're gonna make up our sauce in. Okay, my heat is going on a medium-low to start with. At this point, if you were gonna bake yours right after assembling, go ahead and start preheating your oven to 350. I'm making this ahead of time. Like I said, you can definitely make this ahead. You can make it a couple days ahead if you want. You can make it the day before Thanksgiving or a couple days ahead of your event, whatever you need to do to make this easier on yourself. Okay, into this pot, I'm gonna add about 6 tablespoons of butter. I know that's a lot, but that's what we need. Mac and cheese isn't super healthy, y'all. That's why we don't have it all the time. But it's good ingredients in it. It's just a lot of fat in a mac and cheese. Literally cleaned my stove this morning and just dropped butter on it. Cool. Okay, the butter is melting. So we're gonna slowly start to add in this flour. And this is a 1/4 cup. So we're gonna add a bit here. And then I'm gonna use my silicone whisk and start to combine that together, cooking off the flour, but making sure we don't have any clumps, okay? So now we add a little bit more. Same thing until that 1/4 is all mixed in. And we're creating a roux here. Very easy to do. Don't be scared of words like that if you're relatively new to cooking. Okay, I'm still on a medium-low because that's really all we need here. If your stove is different than mine, maybe crank it up to a medium, but this one is new and it is working well. So we're gonna get this really nice, sweet, nutty smell. You're gonna start to you're gonna start to really smell how good this smells. Okay, while that sits for just a second, literally just a second, I elbow macaroni, 4 cups, and we'll let those cook. Okay, go straight back to this. All right, I'm liking where we are, so I'm gonna start adding in the heavy cream. Now remember, overall we have 2 1/4 of a cup. Add a little bit, combine. Oh, you know what? Let me turn my heat down to low. So we're going all the way down to low. This burner might even be a little large for this pot. I probably should have done a back burner. Okay, add a little more and combine. Making sure we don't get any clumps or lumps. Add a little more and combine. So I'm on my lowest temperature on this burner, just FYI. Add a little more. See how smooth this is if you do it like this? Everything is combining very nicely. Okay, it's super smooth. I don't see any lumps, no clumps. That's what we want. That's what we're looking for. Okay, now I'm gonna add in that dry mustard powder. Again, this was 2 teaspoons. And combine that. While I'm letting this cook for just a minute, if you want to go the roasted poblano pepper route, that's totally fine. You're just gonna take some peppers, cut them up, and then roast them in your oven for a couple minutes. Then you'll chop them up into small pieces so that they can be added into the mac and cheese. So at this point, we're just letting that cook down for about 5 minutes. It's gonna be a thick consistency, but you don't want it to be a paste. So if it starts to get too thick, you can add a little bit of water to it, but just go over every minute or so, give it a stir and make sure that it's not getting too thick. Make sure your heat isn't too high either, because that's gonna thicken it up really quickly. All right, while that's working, let's prep the baking dish. This is an 8x8, you can use a 9x9, whatever it is that you wanna use. It's like the half size pan, the half size baking dish. Let me give the macaroni a little stir. Make sure we don't have anything sticking together, nothing crazy going on. Okay, stir this again. And I'm gonna turn my heat up a little bit more because we're not thickening quite as fast as I would like it. All right, the macaroni is done, so let's take that over. And actually, I'm gonna put this right back into that pot because that's where I'm gonna mix it. I'm just gonna mix everything together in that rather than dirtying another pan. Now this is the consistency we're looking for. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's definitely thicker than what it was. That is what you want. So it's like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's not completely dripping off of the whisk or spoon or whatever it is that you're using, right away. It takes a second. Some of it sticks a little bit. I'm gonna start to mix in the cheeses. So this is our cheddar, about 1/3 cup. Let me just go ahead and incorporate that one in before adding in the others. Okay, you want it to stay creamy, so if it gets too thick, like I said, just add a touch of water. Adding about 1/4 cup of mascarpone. Okay, now I'm gonna add in that Gouda that we shredded, about 2/3 of a cup probably, because we went a little short on the cheddar. All right, now all those seasonings that we talked about, the Cajun seasoning, paprika, cayenne, and salt, add all of that in and mix. That's what you wanna see, y'all. That's cheese. Like I said before, I'm using my pot to mix. So I'm just gonna pour all of this in with the macaroni noodles. Stir it all together. Now keep in mind, at this point, everything is cooked. Honestly, you don't have to bake it. You could serve it like this. I mean, it's still mac and cheese right now. Especially at something like Thanksgiving, having it in a dish rather than a pot might make it a little easier just because you're freeing up stovetop space. But I do want to give it a taste to make sure that it doesn't need any salt or anything like that before we go baking it. Y'all can't wait for this one. Whoa, whoa, oh my goodness. Now we're gonna pour all of that into this baking dish. Y'all, you have no idea. Right before we bake this, I'm going to put some panko over the top. Now, let me just tell you, this is an 8x8 baking dish. I think the recipe that I kind of am sort of basing this off of, they said to use a 9x9. I do think you could use a 9x13. I mean, this filled this thing to the top. So if you're having a lot of people over and you kind of need to spread it out a little bit more, you could spread it out into a bigger dish, and then it's gonna seem like it goes a little bit longer of a way. Already delicious, but we're gonna let this cool for just a couple minutes before I pop it into the fridge, and then we're gonna bake it tonight. So I'll be back later. Okay guys, we're trying the mac and cheese on camera. We have already eaten this actually for a couple of days now. And I have some thoughts, especially reheating thoughts.
I do too.
Do you want to go first?
We both tried it before you baked it, and it was delicious. And then after the bake, it's still good, but we find ourselves just putting a lot of salt on it.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but a reasonable amount.
It's so interesting because obviously it's the exact same thing baked. It's just baked.
Yeah.
But before I baked this, it was, you guys saw my face. I did a little taste of it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so good. It's possible that the sauce broke when it was in the oven. So I was making a meatloaf at the same time, and the meatloaf was cooking at 400. So I just kind of threw this in there so it could get started. And I think it's possible the heat was too high, so the sauce broke. Regardless though, I'm not sure I would bake this. Like I think just make the mac and cheese like I had and skip the whole baking portion, because I didn't feel like it needed salt, and then we baked it and I feel like it needs salt all of a sudden. But before that, you got the heat, you got the saltiness. I mean, everything was literally perfect in it. It's still good. My daughter actually said she prefers it baked. Do you think that prior to baking, it was like over the top phenomenal?
Yeah, I also think it's one that you could mix a protein in with. Well,
for sure.
Your mom actually said it, and it reminds me also of that. Our kids' favorite dish at Slim Chickens. Let us know if you have that in your area. But it's mac and cheese with
like
pieces of fried chicken.
Buffalo tenders.
Buffalo tender bowl and the tender mac bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, delicious. So to me, you could put pork in there. You could put that chicken.
Yeah.
And just make it one pot.
I would suggest making this. I would skip the baking portion altogether. I would serve it straight from your stovetop.
Or even just put a little bit in a smaller container to bake and see what you think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you want to explore that.
But the flavors, man, before baking, the flavors were phenomenal.
Yeah. In fact, I snuck down more than once to grab a bite before it was baked.
I think we all did. I'm not hating on it.
This is one of those you don't dismiss. You just improve on the next.
Yeah. I mean, the flavors are there for sure. My level of excitement for this recipe is honestly probably a little bit much. However, green bean casserole is one of my favorite things ever. Ever. I think it is so delicious. And when you make it all from scratch, it's not as hard as you think it is, and it is amazing. Hold please, we are about to do this. I am using my cheese grater. We have the slicing. It is very windy outside today. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it feels so good. So we have all the windows open. Anyway, if you hear that, I'm very distracted. You might be distracted, maybe it's just me. I'm gonna take this shallot right here, and we're using the slicing tool on my cheese grater. Let me just cut off the end here where it was in the ground. And I'm gonna try and slice this up. I don't know if this is gonna work, but we're gonna try it. Not bad, not bad. Okay, okay. So we got a little bit of missing, but that's okay, that's all right. Now you can use as much of this as you want. If you wanna make a lot more, of the shallot topping. It's sort of like crispy fried onions, you know, that you put on the top. Go for it. Feel free to make as much as you want. I'm going with 1 shallot for the amount that we're making. Oh, I am gonna make a half recipe of this because you're probably well aware that today is not Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna be making this again shortly. And I only need a half recipe today since we're gonna be eating this coming up. All right, obviously feel free to use a mandolin slicer. This was just right here. We keep it right here. So it's super convenient. Okay, now this first part is really easy. We're gonna take this over to the stovetop and it's gonna just get nice. All of this shallot is gonna get nice and crispy while we start measuring out all of the other components for this amazing green bean casserole. Now this recipe tells you that you need a cup of oil. That is excessive. I do not feel like you need a cup of oil. Okay, so we're not gonna do a cup of oil. That's probably a couple of tablespoons, okay? So we're gonna let that oil heat, then we'll put the shallots in, get them nice and toasty and crispy. While that's happening, we're gonna fill some water into this pot for boiling the green beans. And while we're at it, we'll add a touch of salt. We'll get that on high heat so that that water can start to boil. Okay, we're gonna stay on a medium heat. Drop these in and let them get nice and crispy. You're just frying them up, just like you would fry any other food. Spread them out so that they can get nice and done. They're gonna get a nice golden brown color to them. Okay, this could take anywhere from like 10 to 15, maybe even up to 20 minutes, just kind of depending. I've got some baby Bella mushrooms here. Now this is 4 ounces and I'm not gonna cut them up, but if they're really large, I'm just gonna break them into a few pieces. You can leave them sliced like this, that's totally fine. I just prefer if they're a little smaller, so. Some of them were really big, some of them, it's not that big of a deal. We are gonna be needing about a ½ tablespoon of garlic, so go ahead and just get that prepped and ready, everything measured out, which makes it a lot easier when you go to assemble. Just 1 tablespoon of flour. And then in this, we're gonna do about 3/4 of a cup of our bone broth. We're doing chicken bone broth in here. We also need just about 2 tablespoons of butter and maybe a ½ tablespoon-ish of lemon juice. Okay, our shallots are done. They're nice and brown. Not quite burnt. I mean, they're close, right? They're close to that, but they're really dark brown, which is what we want. There's a little bit of oil left in here. I'm gonna save that because we might need it. So you just wanna take these, spread them out on a paper towel lined plate or something like that so the excess oil can drain off. Now I'm running out of little bowls, so we're gonna combine the next few ingredients into this one. About a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, right around a ½ tablespoon of Worcestershire. Feel free to measure. Let's add about a ½ teaspoon of dried thyme, and I'm out of nutmeg, so we're gonna be passing on that. A touch of red pepper flakes for just a little bit of heat. Let's add some salt and stir all that together. All right, the water is boiling, so the green beans are gonna go in. These only need to cook for 3 minutes, and then we are gonna take them out and we're gonna immediately put them in cold water so they stop that cooking process. We do not want them to get mushy in this casserole. And I'm using a pound of ground beans. I don't know if I said ground beans. I'm using a pound of green beans. Okay, 3 minutes. The green beans are done cooking, so we are going to just rinse them in cold water. Then I'm gonna add some ice here and just let them sit in this ice bath, cooling off, stopping that cooking process immediately. So we have our green beans cooked. We've got our shallots over there We've got pretty much everything measured out. There's a couple more things that we're gonna add to this, but let's head over to the stove because we need to get the butter melted, the garlic, and the mushrooms nice and cooked down. All right, so medium heat here. Let's go ahead and put that butter in and let that melt. Toss in the mushrooms and the garlic. Just let those cook for a few minutes, probably 3 to 4 minutes or so, until they're nice and sauteed and everything just kind of comes together, all these fragrances. That's gonna smell amazing. Oh man, it's the smell here because you've got that buttery garlic. Yes. I cannot wait for dinner. I cannot wait. Oh my goodness. I have that tablespoon of flour here. We're going to coat all of these because they are nice and sauteed now. We're gonna let the flour cook down just about a minute or two, mixing all this together. Now this flour here, that's what's gonna help this thicken up. We're gonna get that nice, rich sauce that you get when you make a, oh my goodness, where are my words today? A green bean casserole, for goodness sakes. Okay, so we're gonna just cook that down for a minute. It's coating all of the mushrooms. Okay, now we take our broth, and this is where my whisk is now gonna come in handy. Start to whisk in that broth. And we wanna make sure we don't have any flour clumps, so we're just kind of pouring some in, stirring together, breaking anything up that we feel like needs to be broken up. Like there's a little bit of flour there. You can already see it's making a sauce. Okay, pour the rest of that in. This is the good stuff right here, y'all. Still on a medium heat. Now we need to stir in that lemon juice and then the other mixture that we made that has the Dijon mustard, the thyme, the, what else did we put in there? Worcestershire, all that. And actually, let me use my scraper tool here to make sure we get every last bit, because there's a lot of flavor here that you don't want to miss. Just want to bring this up to a simmer, still on a medium heat though. It's going to just take a minute to come up to a simmer. Simmer that for 2 to 3 minutes. That's going to help the sauce kind of form. And see, it takes, the longer it takes to pull away, like that when I spread, you know what I'm trying to say, right? The longer it takes to come back together, that's how you know your sauce is thickening up. This is about a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Pour that whole thing in. You want to put that in the sink for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mom,
This is a green bean casserole. Now we have some Parmesan cheese that I went ahead and portioned out. I'm only using right around a 1/4 cup. I'm turning my heat down now just a little bit. So sprinkle about half of that in and get that melty into the recipe. Our cream sauce is done. So let's take this over to the other side of the kitchen. I put my green beans back in this pot solely for the purpose of mixing together the green beans with the cream sauce. So all we're gonna do is pour this all over. Make sure I get every last bit. None goes to waste. And then mix that together with those green beans. So I'm just using this as a mixing bowl so that I've got one less dish to wash, because this does kind of make a lot of dishes. I'm not gonna lie. If you don't like washing dishes, sorry. It's worth it. It's worth it. I've got a casserole dish that I've already sprayed with some avocado oil. And now we just need to transfer all of that to the dish. And really, the whole point in me mixing it in this, rather than just straight in the casserole dish, was to attempt not to make a mess of the sides of the dish, because they don't look quite as pretty when the sauce burns on the side of the dish, but then I got it all over the side of the dish. Now take the rest of that cheese. This is a Parmesan Asiago blend. Use, you know, whichever kind you like, but this is a good blend. And sprinkle all over the top. Now, this is gonna go into a 375-degree oven for about 20 minutes. Then we'll pull it out and put on the crispy onions and bake for a very short time after that. Let's get this green bean casserole out of the oven. I'm gonna add the shallots that we made to the top. And then this is gonna go back in for like 7 to 8 minutes. It really doesn't take very long. It's just kind of like getting all this stuff to work together. You really don't want it to be in there very long because these are already real done. All right, back in. Completely from scratch green bean casserole. I don't think you're as much of a green bean casserole fan as I am. I love green bean casserole. And as a matter of fact, now that this has been sitting here on the plate, I'm gonna take some of the sauce that's kind of settled at the bottom and drizzle all over.
I'll see a mushroom.
There are mushrooms. It's got ever so slightest bit of kick.
It does, I just caught that.
Ever so slightest bit. It's because it's homemade, I don't know, there's just something about it. You can taste that Dijon mustard that's in there, the little tiny hint of lemon as well. But I love green bean casserole, so I know you don't care for it, especially with the onion stuff on the top.
I don't mind them like that though.
But yeah,
but it's good. It's a rich fall
yes.
side.
And I'm about to take this sauce, and it's gonna go all over my green bean casserole. Everything that's left at the bottom there. I think it's really delicious.
Yeah.
You can taste the Dijon for sure.
That's good.
It's good. If you still need some more inspiration for holiday sides, we made this amazing mashed sweet potato. I'm gonna have the video linked because I highly suggest you check this out. It has a rich butter sauce over the top and it is so good. Our verse today comes from John 16:33. I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. But in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button You can also hit the notification bell and it will let you know every single time I upload a new video. Check out the video that I have listed above though. Amazing recipes here and you're gonna love those. Do not leave without checking out this video first.